Hey guys, it's Nick. I just want to pop in here quick before we get ready for some fireworks and some more Independence Weekend festivities. I wanted to get this TA video out earlier, but thought I'd hop in here quick while I have a minute and kind of break down some TA for you, what's to be expected this week, and some key things I'm looking at. So as always, I'm not a licensed financial advisor. I do hold my Series 7 and 63 along with my SIE. No longer sponsored by a firm, just kind of freelancing and approaching things from my own educated opinion. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. So just want you to take what I say with a grain of salt, invest for yourself and what fits your needs best. And just kind of wanted to highlight a few things here. So as always, kind of start on the macro side of things. So this is the 5-year weekly chart. So each candle represents a week. Just so you can kind of show where I get my support and resistance lines from, as they aren't just some random numbers that I come up with. A lot of these date back even further, but for the sake of the video, just wanted to kind of keep it short and show you guys some key levels we're looking at as we start the week off. So kind of down here, this is a rough 972, give or take on the weekly. In between, roughly 11 like $12, and then you got your 1350 mark, 1630, and as we get up higher, 1884, and then a 22.5. But when we get in on the daily, these numbers will kind of make more sense, but just kind of wanted to highlight this key uptrend that we've been in. I know obviously you can see it from this perspective, and we're in a regression channel on the downside. But these are some very strong, well-respected supports that I kind of wanted to show you as we get into the week here. So I'll kind of zoom in on daily so that we can see this with more clarity. These arrows here, these are the TTM scalper alert, so it just kind of shows you high and low points, and when they're triggered, typically shows a continuation of a trend or a potential result from it. So don't mind all the arrows here. I will show you kind of some comparisons and what I'm looking at. This is more so for visual in regards to these uptrend lines and then your regression channel that we'll get into. But if you look here on the daily, well, actually I wanted to show something quick on that weekly candle too. This is very intriguing. So this is your 200 SMA on the weekly. If you notice here, before we go into the daily, that blue line, your 200, it's almost acted as a pretty key resistance line along the way. Well, over here, we held it as support, kind of fell beneath it. And this has kind of been the line that we keep coming up to test. This 200 SMA on the weekly, and this is exactly where we went up and tested last week, came back down underneath that 1350 mark, but we did get the close above at 1353. So that's very good to see from a weekly candle perspective. But then as you get into the daily here, it gets to be quite interesting. So if you zoom in, this goes back to pre-January run, a lot of these lines here, and it kind of just paints a clear perspective for you on what levels we're testing and where some of this kind of frequency is coming within the trading ranges. But there's a lot of great channels within here, like this bottom channel coming off of January. It's kind of what we caught support off down here. And then this next channel is kind of our leg up. You notice these kind of double bottoms in a sense, to where you have a stronger daily candle following, which is very bullish to see. And they keep kind of trying to pull us under. But this regression channel is a key thing I'm kind of looking at as we go into this week. As we got these uptrends, it's a very bullish movement. It's kind of like the coil is starting to tighten here. And then if you look at this on the daily, this is what's kind of intrigued me, and I've sent this out before to the Discord. I know it's not the same exact schematic, but in regards to this TTM scalper on the daily candle, if we start here with the red, this would be 1, this would be 1, and you got the 2, 2 here on the bottom, 3, 3 here, 4 is your second green arrow, 5 would be this other red arrow down, 6 is your third green arrow, and then we got here and back down, and this one would be this last red one, and then this green one. So I know it's a bit of a stretch. These are just kind of trends or something that I'm noticing. It's got the exact same setup. Like if we treated this as this red arrow here on the TTM scalper on the daily, this last green arrow hasn't gotten any red one to the downside, and we're basically hugging this 50 EMA on the daily. So this is something that I'm really watching as we go into this week. Is we got this green arrow down here, and we came up, tested the 50 EMA, came off of it a little bit, went right beneath it, then shot back up and hit the regression line. We even broke our previous highs of the January run, which is kind of what this white dotted line is here. Came up and tested that, came back beneath it, and then you got your daily crossover of this ESD. This is your standard deviation line and the 50 EMA. When we got that, that's kind of when we got our big push up. So I've been tracking these on the 4 hour. This is also on the daily. The movements just get stronger the further out that you get. This is your crossover back in January, and we got that kind of explosion up. Here in June, we actually held above this 50 EMA the whole time, so we didn't necessarily get a crossover because we're already above it. But you'll notice here that we were above the ESD line, and anytime we trade above that line is usually when we see our strongest bullish movements. So what I'm looking for here, and I'll get into it a little bit closer once I zoom in, is we've been trading above this ESD line for the past week, arguably back into here, but we've been respecting this ESD line very aggressively and attacking this 50 EMA on the daily, which is a key mark for us to get over, while also fighting the top line of this regression band. So this line here coming from the downside and the 50 EMA are the big crosses I'm looking for this week. I think we have some strong probability in getting that, because if you zoom in here, what I'm projecting for the start is something similar to what we got off of the numbers for Top Gun when we kind of had that strong opening Monday last week. And then with the Minions movie, I'm pretty surprised with how well it's doing, but I think it broke the 200 million mark on the box office numbers for the weekend, which is awesome to see. I know there's some TikTok trends and stuff going on there. But if we can break this mark on the daily, which is your 1350 or your 50 EMA line, roughly at 1387 as of right now, 1390. That's kind of the line I've been talking about all last week, is where once we get over that cross of the 1330 is kind of where we get our most bullish movements on the standard deviation line. Well, that channel goes up to about 1390 roughly, which is where your 50 EMA is here. So I really would like to get a full confirmed cross on this daily candle, because we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like technically 5 tests of it, but we've only ever broken it 3 times as of recent on this daily. Here is where we got a big break with the crossover. So we can just break this 50 EMA and maybe break this regression line. I'd love to go up and test the 1450, 1460 range. That's a huge level. If you zoom back into June of last year, this is your 1350 line. Once we broke above that, you got to your 1640. The fact that we had a weekly close above this 1350 mark is extremely bullish in my opinion. I guess it's about 1360 is what we're looking for. But this kind of pivot point within the algorithm and within the trading ranges is where we see our strongest movements, is once we get above that. We've historically seen it. That's kind of the line they try to keep us under, because anything above there is where we get our strongest pushes. So as we get over to here, Main thing I'm looking for, and I'm keeping this video relatively short, is Monday morning, if the broad market, or sorry, Tuesday, if the broad market holds, which I didn't get anything crazy news-wise signifying a steep drop in broad market. It's a new quarter. I could see them with some slight red off the morning, or maybe some news in the morning to potentially shake up the markets a little bit, but overall I am seeing the markets holding relatively well, at least beginning of the week. We could see, like I said, a little blood in the morning. But other than that, I think markets are going to hold halfway decent. We had this full day off where the futures could get some fluff out of the way, so usually that's a good thing for us. Memorial Day came off of that pretty hot in regards to some bearish news market-wise. We also had the quad day and everything else. But coming off of Independence Day, I'm thinking that we might honestly see some good movements out of AMC. The only thing that could happen, like if markets are bloody, is we could go back and retest this ESD line, which is right about 1309. So if that happens in pre-market open, or if the markets have a bloody open to start the week off, we could see something in regards to that. But these doors, like ceilings and floors, are really pinching these shorts to a point to where they can't really do a whole lot. Like, we've been in this trading range from about 1150 up to roughly 14, maybe, yeah, $14, $14.50 mark. So once we break this trading range, not only are we going to break this regression channel, we almost caught support off of here, and it's historically been a trend, but we're breaking the 50 EMA. This ESD band is going to curl up relatively quick to where if we break this 50 EMA on a daily, we could start trading up into the $15 and $16 range, which is where I want to be going, because this will start curling up. And when we get a crossover on the daily with this ESD band and the 50 EMA, and we're trading just under that 1640 mark, this 1640 mark is a massive pivot point for me in regards to a flip of the switch and where we'll kind of see more fireworks coming from. So I'm looking for Monday morning. Like I said, we could come down, sorry, Tuesday, I keep saying that. Tuesday morning, we could come down, retest like a 1309 mark. Not something I'd like to see in regards to holding momentum, but it is possible. But I do see us either late Tuesday or start of day Wednesday will break over this 50 EMA mark on AMC and really start moving to the upside. So if we get something like last Monday, we could break it right away, break the regression line, come up and maybe test 1575 or even like a 1465 mark. Like, that's a pretty key level we got to get over in order to start moving. So tomorrow I'm expecting anywhere from about 14 and a quarter up to about a 15 in regards to share price move. And then going into Wednesday, we could see some more sparks off of that. That is the second day following expiration from last Friday. So closing above 1350 gave us a few extra calls within the money. But without this breaking this 50 EMA, we kind of could trade a little bit sideways with these the ceiling and the floor kind of closing in here to where we don't see that big movement until later in the week. I know our Discord is kind of focusing on broad market, different things we can look at in regards to other money makers, because I love AMC and I know the end game with it. But the main thing I want to focus on is where are opportunities now and how can we capitalize on them. So I still have some options expiring this Friday. Depending on the movement, I may enter into some more. And then I got like there are 715s, and then after that, right now, it's mainly some further dated options along with my shares. So not going super heavy on some like 4-1s or 414s yet. But I know that as this line comes and approaches, there may be some good opportunities coming up. So we're watching it close. We know the end game. We're just trying to capitalize everywhere we can. And know what's to come here. So for this week, like I said, that's kind of the game that we're playing. I just wanted to show you one more thing here on the 4-hour and then something within the chain, and we'll get rocking here. Okay. So here's your 4-hour. We got the crossover confirmed with the ESD band and your 50 EMA. We even got the cross with your 50 EMA and the 200. So all two of these crosses here have been completed. We're holding this uptrend. So I really think it's basically holding this line up here too. And this window is pinching, so I'm expecting a big movement up towards 1640, maybe even beyond that this week. But really, the main thing I'm looking for is to kind of hold our $13 mark, which is basically our indication that momentum's continuing. So if we can hold that 13, maybe 1290, that's the same zone for me. So anything from 1290 up to about 1430 is basically the same zone to me. So once 1290 breaks, we may have to shift focus on time frame, but they're going to want to try to do this when people are least expecting it. So in regards to that, I know that there's some good movements coming out of this, decent flexibility within the options chain, and some strong movements on the tape as well. So going into this week, I'm looking at your deltas. 0.52, 0.42 is your nearest ones. On the put side, it's 0.37, 0.26. So I think what's going on here is that they're adding in these 0.5 contracts, which are actually just going to end up burning them more than helping them, because they're expecting some sort of they're forecasting some sort of flip in regards to the share price. So as gamma rises, they need more liquidity within the chains to try to provide sufficient pricing in regards to volatility. So yes, long-term wise, I don't like the 0.5 contracts, but near-term wise, it shows me that they're also seeing some volatility that we're gauging on our side too. So I don't think they just add 27.5 to the chain for no reason. I don't always like play these far out of the money, but it is intriguing that these ones, the 0.5s went up to 27.5. But I am looking at this chain very closely now that they're adding these new strikes, just to kind of see the movement of it. Currently our delta's outweighing the put side, which is good on almost every chain. Like here's a 0.54, 0.47, 0.39, 0.32. So that's just showing that the strength is still on the upside. And I think the market makers are expecting very similar movements that I'm seeing within this technical analysis along with demand. So they're just trying to kind of match that and be prepared for the volatility. So like I said, looking to break this 1440 mark this week. I would like to hold our 13 range, which is kind of this 50 EMA, 1290 to 13. And then later in the week, we have a chance of testing the 1640 and above. If we can break this 1640 mark, that's where we kind of get our strongest movements from as well, especially after these crossovers. So one, this break is going to bring some movement to the upside, maybe 1550, 1575 mark. We'll kind of go up and test this next channel. But two, I really want to test this 1640 mark and actually break it. If we test it and maybe come down into one of these channels and then go up, that'd be extremely healthy. But now that we're kind of above this 200 SMA on even the 4-hour candle, and we're about to break the 50 EMA on the 1-day candle, it's honestly looking very strong in regards to this. So as long as broad market doesn't just fall off a cliff near term, meaning within the next 1 to 2 weeks, this movement could get completed and we could break 1640 and be on our way to the 22 to 25, or sorry, 22.5 to 28.5 zone, which is a key one that I'm looking at as well. Because if you get in here on the 1 year and the daily, this will be the last thing I'm going to show you, is your volume profile. So if we pop this over, this is the mark I'm looking for. So here's your 32 line, here's your 27.5, you could pull it up to $28, $29 too. But you notice here once we get into that 1970 mark up to about $32, this VPR is really, really light in regards to that. That's kind of why we got that movement here and that vacuum push that I mentioned prior to this 34 run. So that's really what I'm looking to break into. Here's your 1630, 1640 mark. That gives us a little gap there on the VPR. And then we got to break that 1884 mark, which is going to be a pretty hard push to get over. But 1640 and 1884, I'm really expecting to be tested within the next 1 to 2 weeks. Potentially even end of this week. I just know with a short week, I don't want to be calling for anything too crazy coming off of this. But I could see us really testing 1640 this week. If we break 1640, we'll move on up to the next kind of channel, which is about 1776 to 1884. And if 1884s broke, that's kind of the floodgates where we start getting our strong movements into the 20s. And then we'll kind of reevaluate from there. But just coming off the weekend, I just want you to kind of see what I'm seeing. Nothing too crazy. Maybe a drop down to 13 with a test of 1640 sometime within this week. We just got to hop out of this trading range that's 1150 to 1450. So it's been a grind, but just kind of wanted to hop in here, show you some key things I'm looking at: volume analysis, technical analysis, and different trend lines in regards to that. So appreciate you joining. I'll make a more detailed video later. Just wanted to kind of tie up some loose ends and show you some things that I'm looking at. So leave a like, give us a comment. I'll leave Rico's link in the Discord down beneath so you can check that out. And then I'm hoping to update the channel with some more TA in regards to other securities I'm looking at as well later this week. So appreciate you joining. Have a great 4th, and go enjoy some time with the family.